Okay, let's be together now. There is a date given to me for your OSPI exam. في تاريخ عطونا حق الأوسبي. المقترح هو تاريخ 2 يناير which is a Thursday. مو أنا اللي طلبته. 2 يناير يعني الساعة 1 at 1 o'clock. It's between 1 and 3. انتم ترى يوم الأربعاء بيكون إجازة رسمية بداية السنة. So Wednesday will be off. Thursday you'll have your exam, and then Friday and Saturday relax and be happy. فamong the days هما لأن أنا مع طلبة الطب يكون العكس. يعني I take the written first and then I told them I said I take the written first and then I conduct the OSPI. بس هم مسوين الجدول حق الكومنتو حق الريتنز كل شيء مخلين عدا الأوسبي. زين. The suggested date is 2nd of January. If you have a feedback, let me know. Okay, let me know so that if I can adjust somehow, this is the time I might do something. Otherwise, a day or so and then that's it. لأن أحتاج إلى أحجز حق غرف وكذا. يعني عندي أشياء كثير دكاترة أحجزهم. I have so much administrative work. I have a lot. نعم. لا الحين السلايدات الأوسبي خلنا نخلص عندنا بس 1 or 2 sessions بنزلهم بيجمعهم زين in a pack 1 pack وبنزلهم. اوكي لا I'll give them for you. قلتها حق الشباب اللي عندي تحت and I will put them together and then I'll download them. اوكي بس أبيكم بعد تنزلون المشرحة. Have a look at the models for the muscles, for the bones, okay? The ones that we have taken now for the brain. Spinal cord, the one we have for today. I don't have models on the spinal cord except one, okay? So I'm using pictures for the spinal cord and sections of the spinal cord, okay? That I might use pictures as well in your exam if I ask you about the spinal cord. Okay, so let's have a look at what we have. This is your spinal cord, and if you look over here, look at the whole thing. This is the cervical spines, thoracic, lumbar, and then sacral, okay? As a whole, we'll have a look at the spinal cord and we'll look at thickenings that we have in the spinal cord. We have thickenings in the cervical region, and I have thickening over here in the lumbar region. Okay, these are 2 thickenings. Why do I have thickenings here? ليش مو الثوراسيك والخرابيط كلها؟ ليش في السيرفايكل وتحت في اللمبر؟ ايش معنى؟ ليش thickening? Near to the limbs. Okay. Can you make it slightly better? You know the innervation to the upper limb and to the lower limbs. I have brachial plexus for the innervation of the upper limb. All the nerves that go and innervate the upper limb, they come up from the brachial plexus. Thickening for the brachial plexus. Thickening for the sacral plexus, sacral region over here. Thickening for the nerves that innervate the lower limb. Okay, so she's right. You have thickenings in 2 places. One is for the upper limbs, and the other one is for the lower limbs. Okay, let's have a look over here. I want you to know that the spinal cord extends from foramen magnum. and we have seen foramen magnum. We looked at the brain, and we said the biggest foramen that you have in the skull is foramen magnum. Is it? أكبر foramen اللي عندي هني ها منها يمر الspinal cord. Okay, so starts from the foramen magnum, okay, to the first or second lumbar vertebrae in adults. Remember we spoke about the adults and children? Okay. Now it provides two-way conduction pathway. So there are ascending pathway and there is descending pathway. So there are fibers which go down and there are fibers which go up to the brain. So both the pathways are conducted over here, and it is protected. It's protected by the meninges. شنو المننجز اللي كان عندي؟ Which are, and the pia mater is the innermost, arachnoid is the middle, and dura mater is the outermost and the thickest. Okay, so even this one, the brain and the spinal cord are protected by meninges. Okay. There are 31 pairs of spinal nerves that arise from the spinal cord, and you have cauda equina as a collection of spinal nerves inferiorly. Now let's have a look. I'll show you this, the cauda equina first. هذا تشوفون المكان هذه. This is your cauda equina. Here it ends. These nerve roots, these are cauda equina. شو معنى cauda equina? What's the meaning of cauda equina? What does it look like? It looks like the tail of a horse. ذيل الحصان. Okay, شكلها شكل ذيل الحصان. Okay, cauda equina. Okay, سيلا ترسيكا اللي عندي في البرين قلنا فيها pituitary gland. كذي شكلها سيلا ترسيكا. سيلا ترسيكا بالتركية سرج الحصان. اوكي، هذه سرج الحصان. فسيلا ترسيكا سرج الحصان. كودا اكوينا ذيل الحصان. اوكي، looks like a tail of a horse. اوكي، في كذا اسامي على الشكل اللي يعني مخلين اسامي فيها. اوكي، this one looks like the tail of a horse. Let me go out from here now. It occupies 2/3 of the vertebral canal. Now we know what the vertebral canal is. If I take one vertebra, put it on the other one, in between them there is an intervertebral disc, adilla, and there is a foramina in the mid, and a foramina when I put one vertebra over the other. الفورامينا اللي بيكون في الوسط بيمر فيها السباينال كود. الفورامينا اللي عندي بين الفرتبرا انا vertebra on the lateral side بيطلع منه spinal nerve. واحنا قلنا I have 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Okay, so it's a continuum through foramen magnum, terminates over here L1 L2 in adults to form the conus medullaris. It's a cone shape like that. In children we said it reaches down the length of the vertebral canal. احنا قلنا في الأطفال إلى L3 L4. Okay, so at birth and onwards till for adulthood, then it becomes between L1 and L2. Segments are divided احنا قلنا in the cervical, and the thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. Okay, cervicals 8 cervical. بنشوف ان احنا cervical vertebrae عندي 7. هذه عندي مستوى واحد انزل لان الفوراميناس عندي. Okay, so I have lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. Coccygeal is fused foraminals over here. Okay, pair of attachment. Each segment is attached to a spinal nerve. Enlargements قلنا cervical for the brachial plexus, lumbar for the sacral plexus which innervates the lower limb. فعندي thickening اللي بيصير عندي up لازم نعرف إن if it is in the cervical region that is for the brachial plexus, and if it is lower in the sacral region that is for the lumbar plexus. Innervation to the upper limb, innervation to the lower limb. Okay. طيب coda equina. هذه الكودا equina قلنا collection of lumbar sacral coccygeal nerves below the termination of the spinal cord. يعني even over here when I enter to take cerebrospinal fluid, I am below the termination of the spinal cord. عندي spinal roots هذولين coda equina, but I am not having the spinal cord at that level. Okay. فعندي مسافة ممكن أخذ منها cerebrospinal fluid. طيب, if I look at a section of the spinal cord, I have gray matter and white matter. هذه بعد اللي أنا you should be able to identify. حق physiology you should know the tracts لأن عندي ascending and descending tracts, so I should know what is in the gray matter and what is in the white matter. Okay, الاثنين لازم نعرفهم. Now, the gray matter of the spinal cord and spinal roots, this is the internal gray matter which has cell bodies. I have a posterior horn and anterior horn. براويكم صورة عليه. Posterior يعني dorsal horns فيه interneurons that receive information from sensory neurons in the dorsal root cell bodies. الventral الانterior horn في عندي motor neurons. هذه الحين لو بتشوفوا الصورة, this is the gray matter, this one is the white matter. Gray matter, this is anterior, this is posterior. Anteriorly هني قلنا عندي motor neurons. هني أنا عندي ورا عندي sensory neurons. Okay, so you look at where the motor neurons are. أو عندي بعدين lateral horn. Lateral horn على مو كله على المستويات. Okay, so we look at which level. I have the lateral horns as well. Okay, هذه بس نخلي في الاعتبار. وبعدين هني السنترال كانال. شنو بيكون عندي في السنترال كانال؟ What do I have in the central canal? Vertebra? No. شنو عندي فيه؟ No, synovial fluid. CSF. CSF, synovial CSF. cerebrospinal fluid. بيجيني من اطراف حاصنه, يعني قلت لكم في الوسط يمر داخل. معناته if I give you a histological section for this one and I enlarge this canal, then على أطراف الكنال what kind of cells do we have? شو اسم السيلز اللي بيكونوا على الأطراف؟ لو كبرتها ايش نوع السيلز يكونوا عندي على الأطراف؟ ependymal cells. Ependymal cells where you have cerebrospinal fluid, على الأطراف بيكون عندي ependymal cells. لو كبرت هذه هني كبرتها عندي صور. لو كبرتها you can see the cells on at the border. Okay, those are ependymal cells. Those would make for me CSF as well. لأن CSF يتكون عندي في الventricles قلنا lateral ventricle, third ventricle and fourth ventricle. بعدين عندي aqueduct, a link between the lateral, third and the fourth. وينزل بعدين في هالمسار اللي عندي في السنترال كانال وعلى أطراف الspinal cord. It surrounds the brain and the spinal cord and it goes into the central canal as well. Okay? فأنتوا خلوا في الاعتبار أن you would know about the cerebrospinal fluid and where to go. هذين, these are three layers. This one is the pia mater, this one is the arachnoid, and this one is the dura. Okay, حتى من هذين, if I look at the surroundings for the spinal cord, the outermost is dura this one is arachnoid, and this one is the one with the spinal cord itself. يعني البيا ميتر يمشي مع السيرفس of the spinal cord، يعني لو بيجي فيها تعاريج هي يمشي وياها. Look at this one, no, this one, no, but this one شوفوا نزل وطلع. Do you see that? So if you look at the pia meter, it goes along the depressions, the gyri and the cell side, let's put it this way, of the brain and the spinal cord. Okay? هذه الفاسكولاريتي. Here, if you look at تشوفون هذه bulge over here, this bulge is ganglia. هذه ganglia. Accumulation of these neurons outside the brain. هذه ganglia. Dorsal root ganglia. Okay? هذه مسميه شوفوا هذه dorsal root ganglia. So aggregation of these nuclei outside the brain. So this one will be ganglia. Okay? This one is dorsal root ganglia. Okay? Then we'll look at the nerves, how they are formed and so on. احنا اساسا يهمنا هني هذه كان gray matter and this one is the white matter. Okay? So we'll look what is in the gray matter and what is in the white matter. This is myelinated fibers. Okay? يعني عليها myelin. والمyelin احنا قلنا if I look at the brain, which cells form myelin in the brain? Oligodendrocyte. And how about the peripheral nerves? Schwann cells. Okay? And if I give you a slide, you can see the nucleus of the cells that form myelin in the brain is not sitting on the nerve. In the peripheral nerve, it's sitting on the nerve. And if you see a section like that, you should be able to say, well, هذه peripheral nerve وهذه في البرين. Okay? هذه oligo حتى من الصورة نفسها I would know that this is oligodendrocytes وهذه Schwann cells. Okay? So be able to see them and you can differentiate between both of them. Three regions قلنا dorsal, lateral و ventral columns. الحين احنا في ال white matter. Sensory الافرنت شوف الحين عندي afferent وعندي efferent. afferent اطلعوا لفوق، efferent انزلوا تحت. afferent راحوا sensory، efferent الموتر راحوا حق الجلاندز ولا skeletal muscles. Okay? In between we will have interneurons if needed. فبيكون عندي واحدة طالعة interneurons في الوسط بعد واحدة نازلة. Okay? So sensory are afferent tracts towards the brain. Efferents, motor tracts, they carry impulses from the brain to the skeletal muscles. هذا efferents. فاللي صاعد لفوق is afferent. اللي نازل من فوق لتحت is efferent. Okay? هذه بيساعدنا في فهم الفيزيولوجي. Okay? So it will make it easier for you when physiology will talk about the tracts. Ascending tracts and descending tracts. Ascending شوفوا هي لين قال ascending راح يقول لكم معناته afferent. Descending معناته efferents. Okay? Ascending يعني طالع لفوق. Descending نازل لتحت. Okay? Ascending, descending, afferent, efferent. Okay? Now, الموتر قلنا efferent. This is a section. Now, since هذه section, you should be able to see the section. Look at the three layers over here. Look at the gray matter and the white matter, and look at this butterfly. هذه شكل ال Okay, so you look at this butterfly. Okay, الفراشة نفسها مو جرادة فراشة. Okay. All right. So this one is a butterfly. Usually in books they will tell you it looks like a butterfly. Okay. And you should be able to differentiate. Okay. In nerves بيكون عندي session ثاني بيكم حق لين بجي على النيرفز. next session we'll look at the peripheral nerves and autonomic nerves. okay, فبنفرق بين البريفرال والاوتونوميك. فبناخذ الاوتونوميك نيرفس سيستم مع السمباثيك والباراسمباثيك we'll clarify the issue both of them. زين. احنا قلنا the spinal nerves are 31 pairs: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, coccygeal. The fibers are عندي mix بعد يعني sensory وmotor. This is a site of exit from the vertebral canal. C1 to C7 leave to the corresponding vertebra. C1 to C7. C8 leaves one level before believe تحت ال C7. يعني أنا اللي عندي الأوبننج اللي بيكون عندي بيكون تحت vertebra and then laterally you have this opening of intervertebral نعم foramen. okay, so over here through the foramen C8 leaves below C7 and then T1 to L5 below the corresponding vertebra. Then S1 to S4 leave through the sacral foramina and then S5 and S5 هذه كلها S5 and coccygeal nerve leave through the sacral hiatus. hiatus معناته opening. hiatus معناته فتحة. ها اوكي. typical بعدين بجي على احنا next session we'll talk about the spinal nerves. we'll see that dorsal is posterior is sensory, ventrals are motor. okay, so we'll have a look at both of them. both the roots unite to form a spinal nerve. يعني اللي بيصير عندي spinal nerve بيكون فيها sensory يكون فيها الموتر. so both unite over here just when before the exit الفورامينا. يعني هذه شوفوا هني before they leave the foramen over here they unite. okay, so this is the dorsal root ganglia. here you have both the roots over here and they unite and they give you the spinal nerve. typical spinal nerve يكون عندي dorsal posterior ramus. ramus معناته branch. ramus لما تشوفون كلمة ramus white ramus معناته myelinated nerve fiber. white ramus. gray ramus معناته unmyelinated nerve fiber. okay, unmyelinated gray ramus. ramus معناته branch. the branch which is non-myelinated is a gray rami. the branch which is myelinated is a white ramus. okay, فخلوا في الاعتبار ان تقرون حتى في الكتاب الوايت ريمايز and gray ريمايز. okay, لان كتب لي gray ramus معناته is unmyelinated. okay, so we'll look at both of them. ventral ramize is a large mixed branch, supplies the skin, muscles and so on. so we'll look at these ones as well in detail. المننجيز احنا شفناهم. so we look at the meninges. احنا قلنا عندي هذه الجورا، هذه الارachnoid والبيا هني. ها so we look at the fate of all of them. dura mater, outer covering thick and dense membrane, separates from the periosteum of the vertebral column by a space called epidural space. الحين اللي بشوفهم this one separates from the vertebra بس في space وراها. this is epidural space. okay, contains loose fat, plexus of veins, epidural or internal vertebral venous plexus. okay, ends at the level of S2. now if I look at the arachnoid, this one between the dura and the pia, هذه في الوسط, separated from the dura by a space called subdural space. epidural هني subdural. ترى مهم بعدين انتم بيسألونكم ان انا بدخل في الابيدورال space ولا بدخل في السبدورال. Okay, so you would know which one is epidural and which one is subdural. Okay, this one, when I look at the arachnoid and pia, between the arachnoid matter and the pia over here, I come to subdural space, contains serous fluid acting as bursa. Okay, and it is separated from the pia matter by subarachnoid space. Between the arachnoid والpia subarachnoid. Okay, ends at the level of S2. فشوفوا السبيسز حق المنج، احنا سوينا المنجز بس هذه على السبانال كود. Okay, both dura and arachnoid they extend to form the sleeves for ventral and dorsal roots حق السبانال nerves، بيمتدوا بيواصلوا على الأطراف. البيا متر ما يسوي كذي. They become continuous with the epineurium حق السبانال nerve، يعني بيصيروا الإطار الخارجي حق النيرف نفسه. Okay, بينما if I look at the pia mater doesn't do that. Pia mater delicate, it's بعدين it's pia is vascular. Okay, pia mater is vascular. It's closely applied to the spinal. This one, it forms the denticulate ligament that passes through the arachnoid to be attached to the dura. Okay, هذه اللي عندي, this is the intervertebral foramen. هذه vertebra، هذه vertebra. هذا الجوينت, this one is the facetal joint أو الاسم الثاني حقه zygapophyseal joint. هذه lower facet of this one and upper facet of this one سوالي zygapophyseal joint. هذه الانرفيشن ماله اللي انا اكتشفته اللي قلت لكم انا النيرفز are known سميتهم proximal and distal zygapophyseal nerves. We're actually innervating this joint. Okay, so this joint is known as zygapophyseal. المصطلح proper name for it is zygapophyseal joint. الامريكيين يسمونه facetal joint. Okay, facet لو انا اخلي اي joint فيها face and a face بسميه facet. Okay, فالبريطانيين قالوا اي مكان بيكون كذي this is a facet joint. بس in this particular this is zygapophyseal, it's facetal shape but zygapophyseal. Okay, now هذا خليت على اساس if you look at those who have back pain, this is the disc over here. This one is annulus fibrosis مثل معجون اسنان عندي في الوسط. when this هذا يتسرب with wrong postures، احنا عادة لو نشيل اي شيء من الارض كذي نروح. This is very wrong. Okay, never lift like this. You want to lift something from the floor, bend your knees. Bend your knees, go down and lift. Okay, when you bend your knees you save your back. If you go down like this you hurt your back. Okay, وما يصير اول مره، كذا مره بيصير عندي كراك في الانولس فايبروسيس. الكراك شوي 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 لين ما اللي عند النيوكليس بالبوسيس يطلع منه. Okay, so this one might take years to come from here like this, then compresses and here goes out. A touch on the nerves will give you low back. Just a touch. فما بالكم لو صار عندي compression. Okay, and thank you very much indeed. Okay, do you have any questions on it?